Well, at any moment now, President Trump will address the nation from the Oval Office on grocery prices. The president is taking action and will make an announcement on a key part of the cost of groceries, what he's about to attack on that right now. And he, of course, could comment on a host of issues, including what's happening right now with Iran. Is there a peace deal coming? Will we dig back in with war against that radical Islamic nation? We'll take you there live the moment the president begins speaking. And the ceasefire with that Islamic regime is now hanging by a thread. The president has put Iran on the clock. The White House says Iran has only days to show it's serious about a deal. And we've come to expect Iran is sending mixed signals. The world is watching to see whether serious diplomacy and deal-making will take hold or the strikes will begin again. I'm Harris Faulkner. You are in the Faulkner Focus. Here's President Trump from yesterday.
If we don't get the right answers, it goes very quickly. We're all ready to go. We have to get the right answers. It would have to be a complete 100% good answers. It could go very quickly. Or a few days. It could be a few days, but it could go very quickly. Iran is a defeated nation.
Yeah, they also don't have like a singular column of leadership. I mean, how do you deal with a country that's run by terrorists on one hand and citizenry that's not armed and afraid and hiding at this point, while that country continues to hunt its own and try to fight its way to take the Strait of Hormuz back, which is what we're watching right now? Our U.S. blockade of Iranian ports continues, and it is really punishing that country. CENTCOM released this brand new video of Marines boarding an Iranian-flagged tanker. They searched it, ordered it to change course, and U.S. forces have redirected now 94 commercial vessels and disabled 4 others while enforcing the U.S. blockade. This is a live look at marine traffic in and around the Strait of Hormuz. So we're still watching all of this. The ship icons that you see on this graphic show vessels moving through one of the most important energy transport lanes in the world. Not a lot of them, but they are there. Americans weighed in on the conflict. And check out this new Fox polling. It shows 65% of registered voters, all parties, say the U.S. is winning the war in Iran. Now, the bulk of them don't want us there necessarily, but if we're there, look at that number. Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg coming up in focus. We'll begin with Fox Business correspondent Ashley Webster in Tel Aviv. Right on time for talking the money part of this as well. Ashley.
Well, there's always a money angle. Harris, hello to you. I think at this hour it's fair to say that shuttle diplomacy is in high gear. Tehran reportedly looking at the latest counter-peace proposal from Washington at this hour. But at the middle of all of this, we should mention, is Pakistan. The country's interior minister in Tehran for the second time in less than a week to help mediate the talks. Also, Pakistan's army chief expected to join the discussions. Iranian state media claims the U.S. is offering sanctions relief. Apparently that was news to President Trump, who says it's not true. Listen.
No, I haven't heard that. I'm not doing any relief until they sign an agreement. When they sign an agreement, we didn't get that place built up again and have something that's really a good country for the people. But no, we haven't offered anything.
Well, the president says he could wait a few days to get the right answers, but is also willing to resume attacks on the country. Iran's foreign minister, meantime, says his country is prepared for any outcome. Listen.
Should it become necessary, should the interests of the state dictate that we prepare ourselves in the field of diplomacy, of discussion, of negotiation, then we will prepare ourselves. But with strength, the same strength with which the armed forces prepare themselves in defense of the country.
Meantime, tensions over the Strait of Hormuz are rising, with more than 1,500 ships and oil tankers still stranded. Iran, by the way, has released a map showing what it calls a controlled maritime zone. Tehran says it's committed to reopening the strait to friendly countries that abide by its terms, which will most likely include fees for just going through the strait. And Washington, by the way, reacting to that, saying it is simply unacceptable. Harris, back to you.
Ashley Webster, thank you very much. In focus with me now, Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg, former special envoy to Ukraine and Russia and American Security Co-Chair for the America First Policy Institute. Good to see you. Look, it's 6 weeks of now this ceasefire, 83 days of war. So we've been in ceasefire for a little bit more than half the time we've been at war, and we don't have a deal yet. How long will we wait, and does it benefit us to wait much longer?
Yeah, Harris, it's good to be with you. Look, I am actually stunned by the patience President Trump has had over this period of time. I mean, he's got it right. I mean, he's the only president of the last 8 presidents who's really got this thing right in trying to get Iran under control. And he's dealing with a bunch of thugs. When you look at people like Karachi, the supreme leader, what they're saying is just, it's not acceptable out there. You know, back months ago when I was on with Shannon Bream, I said, you know, what you need to do, you don't need a ground invasion of Iran, because that's such a large country, it's too hard to do that. But you can actually take strategic key targets that you want to, like, and I've been a big advocate of Kharg Island or Rock Island as well. Take those, open up the straits that way, and you control their economy. I mean, especially 90% of their economy comes from Kharg Island. Well, then you just put your foot on their throat. I know it sounds hard over, but the fact of the matter is, accept some risk. It is a war, and you should accept some risk to do that, and put key troops in key positions to do so. I mean, the president's patience has just been enormous, and he's let this thing go. But they're, you know, I don't trust the Iranians. They're going to delay. That's what Arachi's talking about. He wrote the book on Iranian negotiations. He was part of the original Iranian nuclear deal. I don't trust him at all. I don't trust the Supreme Leader at all. When you look at people like Vahidi, who runs right now the Revolutionary Guards, these are all hardliners. We need to accept that. And the fact is not going to go any further. And I would just say, we're done negotiating with you. Give us a call after we do this, and we'll pick up the phone then, but not before. We're done.
Well, look, if we had taken that step earlier, even like 3 weeks ago, we'd be closer to ending this thing, because all the things that you just said are true for Iran regardless of when we hit them. Like that they're not going to have any income anyway. So, I mean, we want peace. Everybody wants peace. That's the end goal, except for Iran. They would love nothing more than to pull us into this. But when does it get to be too late for this sort of thing? And I'm not talking about politically, because they have friends, and we know that they are, and those friends are not ours.
You know, Harris, this is crazy. You know, it's like 34% of Americans don't believe we're winning the war. Excuse me? What? The fact of the matter is these guys are nuts. They think they're winning the war. They're not. They think they can survive this. They cannot. And we just have to keep our foot on their throat to keep going further and making sure they understand the only way we're going to get out of this is a peaceful resolution. Or, if you look at it, there's actually active revolts going on inside Iran at this time. And I think that's going to continue. And these guys are running the country right now, the theocratic government and the Revolutionary Guards. They need to go. They're not the army. They're not the people. And I wouldn't continue a bombing campaign, because that just hurts the people. But everything we can do to take down this government, this theocratic government, and open up the straits, we need to do.
All right. Iran announced a newly created Persian Gulf Strait Authority. And it says in a post that there will be a controlled maritime zone in the Strait of Hormuz. Iran says transit through the area to pass through the strait will require coordination and authorization from the authority. Are they just making stuff up now at this point? I mean, they can mine it. They can shoot at ships. There's a whole lot they can do. And now it looks like they want to make some money off the deal.
You know, these guys are just nuts. That's what I think about them as they think they're winning. They're not. They're creating this falsehood that's out there right now. And when you look at our blockade, which has been incredibly successful, when you look at somebody like President Trump, who's been very insightful on what he wants to do with Iran, they're on a losing side, and they just don't know it yet. It's almost like you're in the middle of a ring punching these guys out, and they don't know they're losing the fight. They are losing this war. And the fact of the matter, you can take it a step further and create it so we become the oil barons of the entire world. And the president can do that.
Lieutenant General Kellogg, always great to have you in focus. Thank you. Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube, and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.